to your Wednesday edition of Bet. I'm your host, Anita Marks, and I've got the gentleman with me today. That's right, we're going to hear from Eric Moody and Dre Snellings. There they are. They miraculously appear on our digital set for good reason. We are going to be talking about NFL running backs. They have been on the front burner. They have been the story. Who's getting deals? Who's not? Who's in camp? Who's not? We're going to be talking running back futures. Gentlemen, buckle up. Let's get to it. Let's start first and foremost with Travis Etienne, running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over under his rushing total of 925.5 rushing yards. Dre, let's start with you. What side are you on?
I'm going over 925.5. He rushed for 1,125 yards last year in what was essentially his rookie season. Now, the question to me is health. He had to miss his entire first season because he had a foot injury. But last year, he bounced back, played in all 17 games, and he's just so explosive. You know, the Jaguars did draft a running back in the third round this season, but they brought him in to kind of take some of the load off of Etienne. But Etienne is still the lead guy. He averaged 5.1 yards per carry last season. He had 8 rushes over 20 yards and 4 over 40. So if he stays healthy this season, with Trevor Lawrence continuing to get stronger and the offense getting better as a whole, I'm expecting him to go over 925.5.
Moody, agree or disagree with Dre?
I'm smiling because I disagree with Dre here. Here's the reason why. So I'm taking the under here. My biggest concern with ETN heading into this season is volume. I'd be surprised if he actually surpasses 240 rushing attempts this year. Now, the Jaguars did select Tank Bigsby in the third round of this year's draft. He's a powerful and upright runner, NFL-ready frame. He was tremendous at Auburn. This is a guy that rushed for 2,903 yards in his career. Now, Bigsby won't be the starter, but I think he'll be more involved than people think in this backfield. Now, listen to this stat here, Anita. You've got Doug Peterson. He does have a history of leaning heavily on a running back by committee. Now, during his time as the Eagles head coach, no running back averaged more than 13.7 rushing attempts per game. And so I do see Etienne being leaned on more as a receiver out of the backfield, but I think he's going to have trouble, rushing for more than 925.5 yards of Tank Bigsby in that backfield.
So I'm not going to play Switzerland. I'm actually going to make a flick here. And for me, I'm going with Dre. I like the over here. This is a cat who averaged 5 yards per carry last season. Also, 7 yards per target. What does that mean? He doesn't come off the field. He's on the field, whether it's third and long. So gotta love that he's going to get a lot of usage, in my opinion. And this is a Jacksonville Jaguars offense. Now you get Calvin Ridley back. I see them, the passing game is definitely going to get a lot more respect. So what's going to happen? Defenses aren't going to be able to stack the box. And I think we're going to see a lot more success in the rushing attack because Peterson's going to play more even-keeled offense, especially with all those weapons that Trevor Lawrence is going to have at his disposal. So I am going over here for ATN. Let's talk about the dude that's on my shirt. That's Bijan Robinson, rookie. Man, I want this cat on my fantasy football roster. I'll tell you that. Over under 1,075.5 rushing yards. Moody, let's come back to you. What side are you on here?
Now, I'm smiling ear to ear because I do like the over on Bijan Robinson here. Now, he was drafted number 8th overall by this Atlanta Falcons team and should be leaned on heavily by the Falcons. Now, he had a tremendous career at the University of Texas, rushed for 3,410 yards in his career. Now, last season, you look at Atlanta, they ranked 2nd in rushing attempts per game. They also ranked 3rd in rushing yards per game. And the Falcons have a solid offensive line. They've got 4 starters that will be returning in 2023. And you can look at the rookie seasons of Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley as a glimpse into what Robinson could accomplish. Now, if you go back to 2016, Ezekiel Elliott rushed for 1,631 yards as a rookie. 2 years later, in 2018, Saquon Barkley rushed for 1,307 yards as a rookie. And I believe that we'll see a similar rushing yard total from Bijan Robinson in 2023. Bet the over.
Dre?
Moody and I are on the same page with this one. I'm also going over for a lot of the same reasons that he said. The Falcons are a run-heavy team. And part of the reason for that is because their offensive line is so strong at run blocking. They had, according to Pro Football Focus, they had the #1 run blocking guard in the league and the #2 run blocking tackle in the league last season. And both of them are among the 4 starters from the offensive line that are returning this season. Last season, the Falcons had a 5th-round rookie in Tyler Algiers rush for over 1,000 yards in a split backfield. Bijan Robinson is special. He should be the leader in that backfield this season. And like Moody, I expect him to go well over this mark this season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously we're 3 for 3 here, guys, especially since this is the t-shirt that I elected to wear today on this Wednesday edition of Bet. But this is a Falcons team, so much draft capital they put into drafting the superstar stud, a 4.46 640. Again, he's another guy like ATN who can be utilized in the passing game. He's a 3-down back. I don't see him coming off the field. As you mentioned, the Atlanta Falcons, they are a run-heavy team, second most in the NFL in regard to rushing plays called, behind the Chicago Bears last year with Justin Fields. So just looking at the numbers, if you say, all right, Robinson's going to get 75% of the carries, you're looking at maybe 340 to 350 carries. I think easily he surpasses his rushing number. So the fact that you're spewing 1,300 yards to me is right up my alley. Again, another reason why I want him on my fantasy football roster. Last but not least, let's talk about Derrick Henry. Over under 1,180 and a half rushing yards. There, I got it out. Surprising to most folks considering he's 29 years old. I'm going to go over here. Dude is top 3, top 5 running back in the NFL. And even though they did, obviously, as we know, improve their wide receiving core, it begins and ends with Derrick Henry in the rushing attack. It opens up things different than what we were talking about with the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? Where Jacksonville, I think the passing attack is going to open up lanes and make things easier for ATN. For me, it's Derrick Henry all day. Give him the rock. Give him those 30 touches a game. And that's his success then will open up things for Ryan Tannehill. So to me, I'm going over just because he's just a complete beast. So Dre, let's go back to you. Are you with me on the over?
I am with you on the over. Matter of fact, we're 3 for 3 in lockstep today, Anita. As you pointed out, at 29 years old, Henry is ancient for a running back in the NFL, which is absurd, but yeah, I digress. But he's shown no signs of slowing down, no signs of the physical wear and tear of bringing him down. He rushed for 1,538 yards last season. That was the 3rd time in 4 seasons that he's been over 1,500 yards. And the only time he wasn't over 1,500, he only played in 8 games and still rushed for more than 900 yards. So that year aside, outside of 2021, Henry has been durable. He's played in at least 15 games in every other of his NFL seasons. And as you pointed out, Anita, the Titans just don't have much else in the backfield. They plan to, roll with their workhorse, and I think he blows way past that number and challenges for 1,500 yards again this season.
Moody, are you going to make it 3 for 3 with the over on Derrick Henry?
Yes, I am. I'm going to make it 3 for 3. I would bet the over here. Now, I know he's 29 years old. Derrick Henry continues to stiff arm Father Time and saying, stay away from me. But here's the reality. He's had 300 or more rushing attempts in 3 of the last 4 seasons. He's rushed for more than 1,180 yards in 3 of the last 4 seasons. And he's in a position in this backfield in Tennessee to have 300 or more rushing attempts, this year. Now, one thing about the Titans passing game, I'll be candid, Anita, it was suboptimal last season. Tennessee ranked 30th in pass attempts per game and 30th in passing yards per game. Now, I know they have a new offensive coordinator in Tim Kelly. They expect to lean more on the passing game. Ryan Tannehill is very capable. He's performed well in Tennessee outside of last year. They've got DeAndre Hopkins, they've got Treylon Burks, but I do believe that Henry will still be actively involved. They just don't want to have to rely on him as often as they have in the past, but he's still going to be involved enough to surpass that rushing yards total. And one thing that's very interesting here, we haven't spoken about this, but he's a free agent next year. So I really see them giving Henry all the rushing attempts and touches that he can handle. I love the over here.
I like that point, right? Just utilize all that gas in that tank, because chances are he will not be back for the Tennessee Titans the following year. I love that analysis, Moody. All right, we're going to play a fun game. We're going to still continue to talk about running backs. It's called Take Your Pick. And our producer, Weimer, has put together 3 instances where we've got running backs that have the same over-under rushing total that we can decide which one we like better. So here we go. We're going to start with Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor. Both of them over-under 1,200.5 rushing yards. Dre, let's start with you. Take your pick. Is it Nick Chubb or Jonathan Taylor that you think has a better chance of going over their rushing total?
I'm going Jonathan Taylor. I really like both of them to go over 1,200 yards, but I feel like when healthy, Taylor is still the best rushing running back in the NFL. The season before last, when he was healthy, he led the NFL in rushing by almost 600 yards over second place. And, you know, he did have off-season surgery to repair the high ankle sprain that ended his season last year, but I think he should be back to full health by the time the season starts. He's playing on a Colts squad that will be led by a run-heavy head coach in Shane Steichen, and he has an easy schedule with 10 games against the AFC and NFC South. So I like Jonathan Taylor.
Interesting. Moody, what say you?
I am going to go with Nick Chubb over Taylor here. Now, let me explain myself. So, the Browns' offensive line dealt with numerous injuries last year. However, this is a unit that still finished 13th in run block win rate. And so they're going to be healthier coming into this season. Cleveland likes to lean heavily on their line in the running game. The Browns, they ranked 5th last season in rushing attempts and rushing yards per game. And Chubb was exceptional. He rushed for 1,525 yards, had 302 rushing attempts per game, ranked 3rd in rushing yards after contact. And the Browns' offense should be better in 2023 now that Deshaun Watson has had a full, unrestricted offseason with the team. And so I do see the Browns just leaning heavily on Chubb because there is, in his contract. They can opt out of his contract in 2024. And they do have Jerome Ford waiting in the wings, who is eerily similar to Chubb, a 3-down type of back. And so I still see them leaning heavily on Chubb. To your point, Anita, exhausting the gas in the tank. So I would go with Chubb over Taylor here.
Yeah, I love it. I love Nick Chubb. I'm going to roll with Nick Chubb as well. I agree with you, Moody. I think he's one of the best running backs in the league. He's averaging 5.24 yards per carry, which is number 1 in the NFL. No Kareem Hunt back there. I think they're going to utilize him a ton. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. And I am expecting a better Deshaun Watson this season for Cleveland. And we all know what happens when you've got a quarterback who can scramble, who's that type of threat. Defenses typically have to take a guy and mirror him, shadow him around, and it really opens up the rushing lanes for the running backs who play with a quarterback who's got that scramble ability. So I think all the stars are aligned so properly for Nick Chubb this season to have a phenomenal year. So I'm going Chubb over Jonathan Taylor. We talked about Robinson not too long ago. 775.5 or David Montgomery. Dre, let's come back to you. Who are you taking here?
Well, this is a different Robinson. I'm taking David Montgomery over Brian Robinson here because I think that Montgomery just has a clearer role on a team that's proven that it likes to run the football. Montgomery will be the run-heavy running back in the system with Jahmyr Gibbs more of the receiving role. And I think there'll be plenty of time when Gibbs actually lines up outside and Montgomery is playing the tailback. He's had at least 801 yards in every season of his career in Chicago, and I think he continues that and goes over 776 with the Lions this season.
Dre, I'm sorry, Moody, your turn.
You know what? Dre and I are calibrated here. I am going with Monty. And one thing about Detroit's offensive line that really impressed me last year, this is another group that dealt with numerous injuries, but their interior offensive line was phenomenal. I'm like, this unit ranked 9th in run block win rate. The Lions, they have 3 first-round picks on this offensive line, and they also have a Pro Bowler. They rank 13th in rushing attempts and 11th in rushing yards per game. And Detroit should continue to lean heavily on the running game in 2023. I know they picked up Monty in free agency. They also drafted very high Jahmyr Gibbs, in the 2023 NFL draft. But I do see Montgomery really dominating the early downs and also in short yardage situation and also at the goal line. And so one thing about Gibbs, I see him being utilized more as a receiver out of the backfield while operating as a change of pace type of back. But the Lions, they have one of the most friendliest, I would say the friendliest running back schedule out of nearly all the teams in the NFL. So I think that bodes well for Monty surpassing this rushing yards prop.
I'm going Robinson here just for the mere fact that I'm actually fading Montgomery because you're talking about Gibbs. I think Gibbs very well could be an absolute stud superstar. You've got a Lions team. They got rid of DeAndre Swift. He's now in Philadelphia. And so I see Gibbs playing that role. I think he's going to get a lot more opportunity, a lot more time. And I think there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed in that backfield. So I am fading Montgomery more so than anything. Big reason why I'm taking Robinson. Last but not least, a guy who's very, 7-iron to where we're broadcasting from. That's the Giants. Saquon Barkley comes to an agreement with the Giants. He's going to play for $11 million, gets a $2 million signing bonus, $900,000 in incentives. So he's at camp. And you've got an over-under of 1,000.5 rushing yards as opposed to Josh Jacobs, who, as we know, was sitting down in his car waiting to sign his deal. That did not happen. He's tagged. He has not signed yet. He has not showed up to camp. So to me, this could be a very easy decision, Dre. I'm assuming you're going to go with Saquon?
Yeah, Saquon is in camp. And he signed a 1-year kind of prove-it-to-me type deal. It's incentive-laden. The Giants have playoff aspirations this season, and we know that Barkley is the key to everything that they do on offense. Meanwhile, Jacobs, as you pointed out, is going a different direction. He's holding out. The Raiders, in my opinion, don't have a lot of upside as a team this season. So whether they're motivated to bring him in or not from here, I just don't know. But Saquon, we know what we're going to get from him if he's healthy. Health is always a question mark, but I expect him to stay on the field and go well over 1,000 yards this season.
Moody, agree or disagree?
I do agree. You have to go with Saquon here. He's actually in training camp. He's practicing with his teammates. And Josh Jacobs, we can end up talking about him like Le'Veon Bell, like in 2018, where he just didn't play. Not a good situation. But one thing about Barkley, Daniel Jones knows that he needs Saquon Barkley in that backfield. Daniel Jones's career quarterback rating is 11 points higher when Barkley is in the lineup. And one thing about Barkley, he accounted for 56.7% of the Giants' rushing yards last year. That was the 5th highest in the league. Furthermore, Barkley accounted for 40.6% of the team's touches, which ranked 4th in the league. So Barkley had a solid season last year. Really career high in rushing yards. And so I do see him being able to replicate that this year. You got to take Barkley over Jacobs if you force me to choose.
And we're 3 for 3, gentlemen. Obviously, Barkley, because he is in camp, but also, I don't think people realize this is a Giants team that went out and invested a lot of money in putting some offensive weapons in the passing game around Daniel Jones. Darren Waller is here now. Paris Campbell is here now. You've got a number of guys that are finally getting healthy. Robinson, Hodgins, and on top of that, they drafted Jalen Hyatt from University of Tennessee. So I see a very committed Brian Dable to establishing a more well-rounded passing attack, more so than just dinking and dunking the ball to Saquon Barkley. And I think Saquon Barkley is going to be utilized more as like a legit running back this season, more so than we saw last year. Just my 2 cents. So I'm with you. I like Barkley over rushing yards. Gentlemen, this is where we say goodbye. Great having you on Bet, and the football season, it is here. So we are going to see you quite frequently, no doubt, on Bet. So appreciate your time, guys.
In honor of Sinead O'Connor, nothing compares to you two.
Oh, nothing compares to you. Yes. All right. Before we let you go, we always like to end the show with this, and we've got the women in action tonight. That's right. It is World Cup action. Team USA, the women strutting their stuff against Netherlands. How am I playing it? I like Team USA to win. Also, I'm going to play a same game parlay where USA wins, and I'm taking under 4.5 total goals. I know that sounds like a little bit of a surprise. Some other bets I'm going to make as well. Who's going to score? I got Smith scoring. I've got Rodman scoring. I've got Van de Dunk scoring as well. Also, I think both teams are going to put up a goal tonight, and for a number of reasons. Why do I like the under? The weather conditions are not supposed to be great, right? Mid-50s, those are the temperatures. Rain, wind up to 25 miles per hour. Also, the United States, they were supposed to destroy Vietnam. They only put up 3 goals, even though they possessed the ball 66% of the time, had 28 attempts. And for the Netherlands, going up against Portugal, they won their first game against Portugal, but 1-0. Portugal, it's not like their defense is anything to write home about. So there's a concern for me there as well. I think both these squads are going to play very, very good, methodical soccer. And I'm not expecting a very high-scoring game. But I do like the United States. Obviously, they're favored to win the World Cup. They've got a better team. I do believe they win. I'm taking the under and a few of those other ladies that I think are going to score tonight. So enjoy the game tonight. Again, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Go Team USA. Thanks for tuning in to Bet.